Okay, I'd like to call the August 21st, 2018 regular board meeting to order. It is 6 o'clock. The first item on our agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, the next item is the approval of the agenda. Can I get a motion and a second? Second. Moved by Navy, second by Auger. All in favor say aye. Aye. And opposed? Okay, we have an agenda. And I just want to make a note that Nancy Livingston and Steve Hunt, I do not believe are going to be here tonight, but Caleb Anderson will be here shortly. Next we have public comment. Do we have anybody? Okay. Thank you. Consent agenda. The consent agenda this week consists of minutes of the July 24th, 2018 business meeting, minutes of the August 7th, 2018 work study session, routine personnel, bid award, contract award transportation, contract award environmental engineering, and disbursement. So are there any items that anyone would like to remove for discussion? Teresa?
Hi, I would like to ask for our routine personnel number C and number D.
C and D?
Please.
Okay.
Otherwise, I move for approval.
Okay.
A, B, E, F, G.
Okay. So we have a motion from Auger for A, B, E, F, and G. Can I get a second? Okay. And second by Coburn. All in favor say aye. Aye. And opposed? Okay. So
Item C.
So we have approval of the consent agenda except for item C and D. So Teresa.
As the clerk signing all these brand new contracts for new employees, I thought it'd be kind of timely if we could just ask Julie from an HR perspective just to share a little bit about what is the framework or the process for hiring new staff, just since it's such a big item this particular month.
Yep, sure. So obviously we have an online application process where all candidates interested in employment apply online. For teachers, embedded into that application is a screening tool called Ventures through a company called Humanics. And we use that to just as another way to help screen applicants. They answer a number of questions that allows them to identify talents that would make them successful educators. So that's, again, embedded into the application. And then hiring supervisors review those applications, look at the Ventures screening tool, any application materials folks have included as part of their application, and then they do an interview. And oftentimes at school, and this is, again, for teachers, there's a demonstration lesson that's done as part of that to really show what they can do with and in front of kids. And then there's a regular interview and reference checks on finalists.
Just out of curiosity, Julie, how many applicants do we get at the start of a school year for teachers? Do you have any idea?
I don't know the total, but for example, at elementary position, we had one at Richardson where we had 100 and I think it was 23 applicants.
Wow.
So it can vary depending. Elementary, obviously more math, specialized science areas, we tend to get a little bit less, but there's quite a few.
Okay. Okay. Do you want to do each one separate for a motion? Okay. Do you want to move on that first?
All right. So for routine personnel.
I move for approval.
Second moved by Auger, second by Coburn. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
And opposed? Okay, so that we have approval for routine personnel. So next is the bid award.
The reason I pulled this is I'm thrilled about it, but it's it's a multi-million-dollar couple of contracts, and I thought it'd be really important just to share that we're under bid on that, and just how we're no tax impact. If you would talk about that a bit.
Yes, absolutely. So Adolphson and Peterson, our construction manager, Patrick Sims took bids, and we're proud to present work scope for Castle Elementary for excavation and earthwork, and then also some preliminary concrete work. And the original budget was about $605,000 for this two work scopes, and it came in at about $486,000. So it was about 20% under budget for our first work scope here. So we're pleased about that. Also, remember, this is phase one of our facilities planning project of renovation of Castle and Richardson, and just to let folks know that this will not increase their taxes in any way in the forthcoming levy process this fall and winter. So with that, are there any questions?
Okay, thanks, Randy.
You're welcome.
Okay.
I move for approval.
Okay, so for bid awards, we have a motion for approval from OJ. Second from Navy. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
And opposed. Okay, so we have approval for all of our consent agenda items now.
Thank you.
Next, we have the reports, and we start with Superintendent Osorio.
Good evening, everyone, directors of the board. As you notice, we have this evening finally some new updates to our boardroom so that we can see better and hopefully see our guests better and create a better presentation space for us. So we're excited about that. I also wanted to make just a really brief mention. We have some new leadership in place at some of our schools for this fall, and I thought I would mention a few new names. We have two new associate administrators. We have Corey Zegland at Maplewood Middle and Vichai Sevong at Tartan High School. We also have an interim assistant principal who is new at North High, Stephanie Gokin. And we have two new full-time assistant principals. Duran Drummond is going to be at Skyview Middle, and Junior Eugene will be at Tartan High School. So we hope that as you're out and about this fall, you get a chance to meet our newest administrative team members in our schools. And then I also want to make mention that this evening we're going to have a really neat presentation. I'll turn it over to I don't know if Troy Miller is going to do an intro, but we have in the past been doing departmental features at our board meetings, just highlighting different areas of work that we're doing in the district. And new this year, we're going to start bringing in some school principals so that you can hear a little bit more about projects and programs and things happening at school sites. And so this evening, we're very pleased to have Principal Tracy Buell with us here to talk about Oakdale Elementary as the first of one of our presentations on different school sites. Anything you want to add to that?
Nope, again, just a pleasure to have Tracy here. They're doing awesome work over at Oakdale. I'm going to share some highlights there, and we're just really proud and excited about all the things that are happening.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, directors of the board. Just want to tell you a little bit about me and part of this work that we're doing. I am entering my 25th year as an educator. And entering my 6th year as principal at Oakdale Elementary. And I just want to tell you how much I love Oakdale. I love the community, I love the staff, I love where I'm at. And I'm just proud to share with you some of the great things that are happening at our school. And so when I talk about those things that are happening, I just want you to know that it is a we and not a me. So whatever is happening at Oakdale is all about the staff, and some of them showed up even tonight just as support. But there are some really great things going, and I would love to tell you about that. So we're going to look a little bit at data first. What you're looking at here is Oakdale data and district data. So it's growth, student growth for this school year currently. And a couple of things that I'm super proud of is, well, first of all, you'll notice that Oakdale and the district data is really similar. So Oakdale is a school that's really pretty closely associated with what the district does overall. But a couple of things that I am super proud of is that if you look at the growth data, our medium growth and our high growth are much more significant than our low growth. So I think that's something just to highlight overall. And then if you look at 2017 and 2018, I have that data for you down in the bottom right corner. 2 areas of significant growth this year is in reading. We have a 7% growth, and we actually have a 19% growth in science. And so there's just some really great things happening along with that. For the reading growth specifically, though, I want to say we've definitely made some changes to how we do instruction. And so with our win time, which is what I need, with that time, as well as push-in time for student support and small group instruction, I think that's made a big, significant difference. If you looked at Oakdale's data over several years of time, you'll notice probably some ups and downs and some bumps in the road, but you'd probably notice that a lot of it is pretty stagnant. There's not a lot of ups, there's not a lot of downs, but we really feel like we've kind of found some things that are working for us really well, and so thus some of the improvements in that data. So going on to the next set of data, culture, climate, and behavior is something that's really important in our school. And I've listed there all the different things as a school district. That's what the school district supports us with. We have all of these tools: CLR, responsive classroom, Olveus, Second Step, all these different things that we can do to support, but those are just tools. We have to figure out what to do with them. And so we're taking that this year and really looking at what pieces of each of those different areas are really going to support us. So in addition to the work we've already been doing with culture, climate, behavior, that's some of the work that we're taking on this year. But I'm really most importantly proud to say that you'll look at the suspensions and the out-of-school data. We had 0 out-of-school suspensions this year at Oakdale Elementary. So not to say that we didn't have any suspensions, because we did have some in-school suspensions, and I want to tell you about that as well, but we had 0 out-of-school suspensions because we know that kids need to be in school. And so I love that our staff has embraced that. It wasn't something that we started off to do this year. We didn't say, we're not going to suspend anybody. It was more looking at what were the needs of the kids, what were the situations of what happened, and then how do we best support them. And then if you'll look at the 2017 and the 2018 overall office referrals, you'll also notice a drastic decrease in the number of office referrals we had from 2017 to 2018. So just knowing that that's something that's super important, and we're going to continue this work. And so a little bit about what I love about our school and about our staff and students is I love our staff. They are kind and hardworking. They love the kids. They know when to have fun and how to have fun, and they know when to be serious. They put kids first. We had a pretty tough year this year. We lost a teacher kind of in the winter, springtime, and then we lost a teacher this past summer, which has made some pretty difficult times for our staff. But what I love is that the staff is a community and a family, and they just really support one another and love one another, and we're just all walking through it together. So we actually hired a teacher within our building to take over that teacher's spot, which I think is going to be a really healthy thing for our school culture. So I love our staff. I love what they do, but it's all about the kids. So I wanted to just tell you a little story about one of the things that we did this school year, and that was we had an enrichment day in the spring, which was something different than we had ever done. And kids had a choice in the morning and the afternoon to pick 2 different sessions that they would get to do. So some kids, you'll see this whole row of boys there, they're coding and working on iPads, and we have kids doing sand art. And then we had talked to Tartan High School, and they brought the robotics team over, and the robotics team came and they worked with robotics in the school. And you'll see B there, and he's doing Hmong culture with different groups of kids. We had a parent come in and do drones with the kids. And so it was just a really great day, and the students and the staff love it. We're hoping to incorporate 2 of those days this year. Just something that both the staff enjoyed and the kids, and we also got to involve some of the families in the community as well. And then that last picture right in the middle is me being dumped on as an ice cream sundae. And it's the one thing the kids always loved all year long after that. They said, "Do you remember when, Mrs. Buell, you were an ice cream sundae?" And then they asked me how cold it was. But we were raising money for our new playground that's being put in this summer. And our goal was $10,000. And we actually raised $20,000 in that fundraiser. So anyhow, that's just a little bit about me and what's happening at Oakdale. And I really do want you to know how much I find it a privilege to work for this school district, and I love our school. So, questions?
Tracy, can you thank you very much, by the way. Thank you. Can you remind us how many students do you have in your school?
We have
roughly?
about 500.
Oh, you do? Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
We love presentations like this. My question for you was, I love this win time, but I do understand that I know that it's getting closer to being the same at every school, but I was just curious how your school does it.
So we have a 30-minute intervention block, but in that time, it could be intervention, it could be more challenging work for our kids who need more challenging work. It could be at grade level work. And so we have, I will say, because we are a little bit needier, we have some extra support with our Title I staff. And so I have several members in my Title I staff, and we have kids go all throughout the building. And so it's a scheduled 30 minutes every single day that
Every
our kids
single day.
participate. Yep, every
Okay.
single day that our kids participate in that.
That's great.
Yep.
And I would guess that is one of the reasons that those scores are
Yeah,
going up.
especially the reading scores, I would say, for sure. And then our staff loves science, and so they really do spend a lot of time teaching. And I think this last couple of years, they've really spent a lot of time digging deep and finding things that work for our kids when it comes to science.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. I also just wanted to call out the behavior referrals, the out-of-school suspensions. I think that's great. You had 0 compared to a couple years ago, you had 20. So I think that's fantastic. Is there anything specific or?
Yeah, actually, I guess I didn't cover some of that. A couple of things. With our in-school suspension, we don't have a dedicated room or space for that to happen. But we do have several staff members in our building who are willing to take on a kiddo in their classroom. And what'll happen is they'll do in-school suspension in that classroom, but either the social worker, myself, or one of our behavior specialists will come in and work with that child to talk about and fix whatever it is that needs to happen. So whatever behavior it was, whether they need to repair a relationship with another adult or with another student or whatever that was, we'll work with them to do that work. And then the rest of the time they would be just doing their regular classwork in that room. But that teacher in that classroom also will take on, usually has a relationship with that kid, and will support that kid however they can and talk with them as well and just give them kind of some support and some pointers and how to make it through each day. And the other really great thing when we do suspend in-school suspension for some of our special ed kids, they still go and get their special ed support services. So they're not missing out on that if they were suspended in an in-school suspension situation.
Great, thanks.
Thank you, Tracy. I'm really pleased with the science and the math scores, and I'm sure that the parents are really happy that there's no out-of-school suspensions. And have you gotten good feedback from parents when it's?
I think it's a lot easier in talking with parents when they know that the first thing when you're not gonna say the first thing to them is your kid's suspended from school. You know, it's a lot easier to hear, you know what, there is a situation today, we really want to work with your kiddo and you on this, how can we support you? And these are some things we're thinking, and this is how we might be able to do it. I think that really helps conversations go really smoothly.
And I just want to say, on top of that, with the decrease in those office referrals, to me, that says a lot about your staff, because it's so easy to say, go down to the principal's office. I don't want to deal with it. Yeah. So hats off to your staff for that, because that's a huge decrease and something to be really proud of.
Absolutely.
Because that takes a lot of work.
It does. One of the things we do at the very beginning of the school year with them is actually our support staff, so myself, the social worker, any of our behavior staff, if there's a situation early on in the year, we don't want the teacher to lose any credibility with that student. And so we'll go into the classroom and take their class over so that the teacher and student can step out into the hallway to fix whatever situation might be going on at that moment, if it's something that's immediate. So we don't want them to lose any of that credibility. We want to make sure that we can support them, but that the teacher really still is a part of that relationship and that we don't break that relationship for them.
Tracy, how many of your staff were trained in restorative practices, or did that have an impact or an influence as well?
Yeah, actually, I think one of the greatest situations we saw with restorative practices, we have probably about 5 staff who are actually trained. We have other staff who are trying it out even though they're not trained. But a couple of times I had one teacher in particular, a 5th grade teacher, who her class was having some real problems in a specialist class, so music, Viet, or gym. And she actually ran a group in that specialist class with the specialist teacher, so that that teacher also could see how it was run and see how they could figure out what the situation was between the teacher and the student and what was so frustrating about the class for the students and the teacher both. And that helped tremendously. We actually had a teacher do that a couple of times in 2 of the different specialist areas, and we saw some great growth from that too.
Great. Well, thanks very much. It was great to hear about Oakdale. And thanks, Christine, for bringing over the principals. I think it's a great idea to hear more about the schools.
Thank you.
Proud to share.
Okay, next on our agenda, we have school board, the superintendent evaluation. So on July 17th, we had a closed session to evaluate the superintendent's performance. Superintendent Christine Osorio was rated on the performance of her 4 goals, and her goals are: number 1, to engage staff and community to develop a 622 facilities plan, which will clearly outline timeline, funding plan, and construction priorities to A, improve energy efficiencies of facilities, B, address current and future space needs and challenges, C, improve instructional spaces, and D, improve appearance and marketability of our schools. Her goal number 2 was establish a PR marketing plan for 622, which will A, stabilize or improve enrollment, B, improve community perceptions about 622, and C, engage and involve community members with 622. The 3rd goal is increase learner outcomes for students through implementation of the District 622 strategic plan. And the 4th goal is continue doctoral studies program along with the integration application of this new learning in the daily role of superintendent for 622. So the board found that Superintendent Osorio met and exceeded expectations as superintendent of the North St. Paul Maplewood Oakdale School District. Christine demonstrates exceptional enthusiasm as she digs into the day-to-day operation of the school district. She has elevated 622's status through empowering others and continually promoting our mission, vision, and expectations. As Christine begins her 4th year as superintendent of schools, we would like to thank her for her passion, leadership, and demonstrated excellence. Thank you, Christine.
Thank you.
Does anybody want to add anything?
Awesome job again. And could I please note, do not start your evaluation after 5 p.m.
Got it.
It's not fair. You're our only employee.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Christine. Next, we have the discussion items. We start with policies, and Christine has several policies.
Several? All right.
Now we need to get comfortable because we actually have a number of policies. As you will recall, we first did our formal reading. We first did a review of our current policy proposed changes at our August 7th work session. And at that time, we received and had a discussion and included a number of suggestions and revisions that have come out of that conversation on August 7th. And so we've incorporated these into our policies. And so tonight we will be doing our first formal reading of these policies. And just as a reminder, every year MSBA, the Minnesota School Boards Association, does send us recommendations to review our policies and look over, especially where there might be statutory changes in language, things that might impact our policy language. So every year we do go through these and we review the recommended changes. And we decide which ones we're going to adopt and which recommendations we're going to incorporate. So this is that annual review of policies, and so I'm going to start off by reading you a list of policies we're actually proposing to rescind. So we're going to be eliminating these policies. Get comfortable. I have a number of these to read. I'm going to share the title of the policy and why we're changing it, and I'll try to keep it moving along because there's quite a few. So the policies we're proposing that we rescind: G000 board governance. We're going to incorporate the information in G010. We're going to rescind G040 board and community relations. We're also looking at, because this material is generally covered under our policy G033, we're going to rescind 013 whole student development, because this material, or this language is actually really well covered under our district strategic plan. Next, we're going to rescind E050, District Administrative Operations. And that is basically because this information is already covered in another policy as well. E053 is also recommended for rescinding decision making. Again, this is already procedure that's already covered and incorporated into our current practices. 054 for rescinding accountability system. This is basically not deemed necessary by legal counsel in our administration. And then E070 monitoring and reporting. This is already covered under policy EM020.28. And by the way, these are all in the board book. So if you want to be following along with the details, they're all in there as well. E081 is also recommended to be rescinded, strategic plan. And that is because it's already covered under our other policy, E000. E086, rescind security badges. This is all procedural information we did not feel needed to be in district policy. Also, we're recommending rescinding L000, global limitations. Again, this is procedure that is already incorporated into practice and we did not deem it needed to stay in policy. We're recommending rescind L021, unprofessional non-school employment activities of district personnel. We're intending to rescind this and incorporate it under a different policy, E040. We're recommending to rescind L022, violations of a drug-free workplace, and we're recommending that also because it's already reflected in another policy, and that is EM020.9. We're recommending to rescind L030, untimely, inaccurate, incomplete information analysis and assessment reporting, because again, that's also already covered under another policy, EM020.28. We're also recommending to rescind L050, noncompliance of expectations of customer service. This is just not deemed necessary by our legal counsel and our admin team. Finally, we're recommending L070 to be rescinded, violations of the Administrator's Code of Conduct, because this is already reflected in policy E060. Next, we're going to talk about the policies we're recommending that we revise. Next, the first of these is G010, Board Authority and Self-Governance. The revision is going to include board governance language from our policy G000 and the modification in the policy title. G033, Open Meetings and Closed Meetings, actually has new language that includes interactive technology provisions. G035, Public Participation in School Board Meetings, Complaints, Data Privacy Considerations. Public is no longer limited to just citizens of the school district, so we've changed that language to reflect that change. SBR000, Superintendent Board Relationship. We're recommending to revise this using MSBA's model policy. E008, Gifts to Employees and School Board Members. This clarifies that recognition plaques are now included into the gift rule. E018, immunization requirements. This just reflects changes to requirements of a medical statement. E026, transportation of public school students. This has some changes to the section relative to homeless students. E027, transportation of non-public school students, reflects changes to the section regarding students with disabilities. E040, development and management of human resources. This is a combination of some policy recommendations from MSBA and also has some removal of procedures that don't need to be in policy. Next, E041, employment background checks. This is going to change the language from the Minnesota State Board of Teaching to the Minnesota Professional Educator Licensing Standards Board. You'll see that in several policies, actually. E042, acceptable use of wireless devices for employees. There's revisions that reflect individual change of who in the cabinet is the approving authority for that. E046, criminal or civil action against school district, school board member, employee, or student. Just some sentence structure changes. E060.1, school district intellectual property rights. We have moved the procedure into the policy to mirror an MSBA model policy. E072, enrollment of non-resident students. This changes information on the lottery section, and there's a new form that's referenced in this policy. E083, revision. Distribution of non-school sponsored material on school premises by students and employees. There's a legal reference revision in this policy. E085, employee-student relationships. Again, changing the Board of Teaching for Minnesota Professional Educator Licensing and Standards Board. E096, procuring materials and services. This is a change in statute language, which is changing in August for the dollar amount, which requires a higher approval. EM020.1, equal educational opportunity. Under the Minnesota Human Rights Act, gender identity and gender expression have now been included as protected categories, so this reflects that change. EM020.2, equal employment opportunity. Again, under the Minnesota Human Rights Act, gender identity and gender expression have been included as protected categories. EM020.4, public and private personnel data. Again, a simple change, the Board of Teaching with Minnesota Professional Educator Licensing and Standards Board. With that board name changing, we're having a lot of references to that in our policy updates. EM020.7, harassment and violence. Again, under the Minnesota Human Rights Act, gender identity and gender expression are now included as protected categories, and this change reflects that. EM020.9, drug-free school, a legal reference revision there. EM020.10, tobacco-free environment. This has got some additions to the definitions for tobacco and tobacco-related devices, including e-cigarettes. EM020.15, student discipline and notice of suspension. This has some clarifications and additions to our student code of conduct. EM020.21, Internet Acceptable Use and Safety Policy. This has a legal reference deletion. EM020.25, Student Transportation Safety Policy. This has one elimination from the section regarding school bus driver duties and responsibilities in the language. EM020.34, workload limits for certain special education teachers. Again, a replacement of the Board of Teaching with Professional Educator Licensing and Standards Board. E048, adoption, 048, this is an adoption of a new policy, subpoena of a school district employee, and this is an adoption of the policy. It's actually a result of separating E040 into two separate policies. E062, this is an addition, public data request. This is a new model policy for the collection, maintenance, and dissemination of public data as provided in state statutes. So this would be a recommendation for a new policy. With that, these are the new proposed changes to our policies for this year. Are there any comments or questions about that?
I know this is not as rewarding for some as it is for me, and I apologize. But I take it so seriously because it is really our only function. But Julie, E040, I just need help. This is the one on development management of human resources. there's been, all the edits that were initially proposed are in red. Then we have a whole bunch of blue, but there's a line through it. I just wanted to know, is the proposal to adopt the blue, or are we striking the blue? Because there was a line.
Can you double the number that you said, Teresa?
E040.
Okay, E040. Give us just a moment. We'll pull that one up.
And it's all the way at the very bottom under 4, the whole procedure for administering policies. I don't know what page it is.
Actually, Kim, can you answer that question? Because I know you've got
It's on
the
page
color
102.
coding of the changes.
And it actually is, that was proposed to be stricken from the policy. The procedures were asked to be removed.
Yeah.
That's right.
And I think that's what our conversation
Yes,
was,
it
but I
was.
wasn't sure because it was in blue now.
Exactly.
Okay, so-
Only because the blue, just so you understand my color coding, the blue reflects any conversation you had at the study session. So that's why it looks different.
Okay. So that's what I want to clarify. Okay, there's that. And then the other one was the, hang on, I'm sorry if I appear was the, the policy that is, the opening paragraph is 2 sentences long, but it's like a half a page. And your general counsel said to leave it, and that was E060.1. And it starts off as a negative. The tone is negative, and I just wanted to know if there was any light as to why we can't make that just a little easier to read.
I'll speak to that. We actually had some conversation about it, and we felt like, just like in state statutes and things, there's often a lot of lengthy sentences. We felt like the content of it, there really wasn't a piece we felt like we could eliminate from there, and we certainly could be open to a suggestion for that. But as we reviewed it as cabinet, we really, and our legal counsel, we really felt like all those pieces needed to be in there. And as you know, in state statute and all kinds of different legal documents, sometimes you have those really long sentences. But we certainly are open if you have a suggestion.
Well, and my only thought is I'm not suggesting we change content. I just thought if there was a way to make it easier to read, because as an educator, I find this an intimidating opening paragraph. And you know, if you're having somebody do some work for a classroom or for the district, that was my only thought. I embrace its concept. I totally support it. I just thought to make it a little bit easier read was my thought on that. Otherwise, I want to thank the board, the cabinet, for all their work on listening to our lengthy study session.
Yeah, I'd just like to say, I mean, I don't know that you could really make it into any other sentences simply because a lot of it is just listing different medium. But I see what you're saying, Teresa, but I just don't know if there's a way to.
We can certainly take another look at it. We did take a look at it, and because it's listing those things, it was hard to figure out what would we take out of that.
And I wasn't suggesting an abstraction. I was looking for a period, a new sentence, or you know, something that made it just a little bit easier to read without losing context of what it is. But just a thought that certainly nothing I can't support.
And I just want to say once again, thank you guys for all the work. I mean, we go through this, 40-some policies or whatever, and we've talked about them once. We'll talk about them 2 more times, whatever. But you have done the majority of the legwork, and we realize how much legwork that is, and we really, really appreciate it because it makes our duties a lot easier and easier to swallow, and then we're able to dive deeper into these things because you've already given us a really good platform. So I just want to express how much I appreciate that.
Great, and I'll just give a shout out to Kim. Kim has done an amazing job this year, not only pulling all of our policies, cross-referencing them all with MSBA model policies and helping us really stay on top of it. I am very pleased and proud to say we have very current policies in this district. We really take it seriously, and we don't let the language slide. When there's new changes, we always update our policies. And it's tedious, but it's important because they're always current.
Okay. So as was mentioned, this was our first reading. We reviewed them in the study session and had a chance to discuss them. This is our first reading, and we will have a second reading before the motion for the vote on those. And again, thank you to everyone who works on keeping these policies up to date. Okay, so the next item on the agenda are our action items. So our first action item is Teresa is going to read the acknowledgement of contribution.
Thank you. Minnesota Statute 123B.02 permits school boards to, quote, receive for the benefit of the district, bequest, donations, or gifts for any proper purpose, and apply the same to the purpose designated. In that behalf, the board may act as a trustee of any trust created for the benefit of the district and for the benefit of pupils thereof, end of quote. Be it resolved by the School Board of Independent School District 622 that the school board accept with appreciation the following contributions and permit their use as designated by the donors. Medtronic, Carmen Snaza, donated $300 for the Harmony Field Trip assistance. The House, Steve Poindexter, donated T-shirts, jackets, winter coats, snow pants, and sweatshirts to John Glenn Middle School. Maplewood Police Department, Tim Hawkins and Alina Health donated 18 refurbished bicycles and 18 new helmets to John Glenn Middle School. The Knights of Columbus donated $1,674.42 for the community bridge. Cowan Elementary PTG donated $16,139.31 to Cowan Elementary classrooms, and Kathy Richardson donated backpacks and school supplies to Weaver. That brings our total fiscal 2018-2019 monetary contributions to $32,113.73. I'd like to thank those donors and move for appreciation, move for approval.
Okay, so, all right, so Auger, motion for approval by Auger, second by Coburn. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
And opposed? Okay, and that motion carries. And thank you, Teresa. Okay, next we have several items for Randy. So the first one is a resolution awarding long-term facility maintenance bonds.
Yes, I'd like to invite Greg Crow up to the podium and discuss the sales of the bonds last week and today.
I have a couple of reports that so it's nice to be back again. I told her we're going to be bothering you for the next couple of months, so but I'm pleased to be here with good news. So it's fun to come to these meetings and report back with good things. So if you remember, we sort of entered into the first phase of financing for the Castle and Richardson projects, as well as deferred maintenance projects generally across the district. And so we have 3 bond sales. We did 2 of them this morning. So you have 3 reports, and we did one of them last week. And the one that we did last week was actually the 2018 B bond, so you'll see that in the report. So the resolutions are a little bit different. The A and C that we sold today, we're awarding the bonds to the low bidder with the resolution tonight. The B bond, if you remember, we did a parameters resolution, and we said if the interest rate was below 4.5%, then superintendent or business manager and a board officer could accept the proposal, and so that happened last week. So that resolution is slightly different in that you're ratifying the acceptance of the low bid that was executed last Thursday by Mr. Anderson, and I think the treasurer who somebody came in and signed, and Becky did. So.
Becky.
The reason we did that on a little bit different day is that it's slightly different than the other bonds in that it's only 7 years and it has a very short call period, which is 3 years. Most bonds, when we enter into new bonds, we wait 8 to 10 years before you can refinance them or pay them off. The B bond includes capital facility bonds, which come out of your general fund. So we wanted to have the option sooner to pay them off. Most municipal debt is issued in the beginning of the week, so we thought, let's do this a little bit different time because it's a little unusual, and hopefully that'll give it a little more attention in the market and result in a good interest rate, and that's ultimately what happened. So, so that's the short story. Is we've got a couple of things to do, but we got great interest rate bids on all the bond issues that that we've entered into. And then fourth and fifth resolutions for tonight are to execute or authorize the issuance of refunding bonds, the 2018 D and E. We don't have reports on those. We'll finalize some estimates for you in September to go along with your certification of the levies. So I can talk about any and all those things as we kind of go through the agenda here. But let's look at the reports quick. The A bond has most of the backup material in it. So the 2018 sale day report, 2018 A facilities, general obligation facilities maintenance bond has most of the backup so that we weren't just kind of generating big piles of paper. But you can see on page 1 that we issued $44,885,000 of bonds. The rating is listed there. You received the underlying or the credit enhanced state rating of AA2. We also had a rating call with the rating analyst to talk about the school district's characteristics, the improving finances, and to get a rating on the underlying credit quality of the district. And they maintained the district's A1 rating. We put some pressure on them to try and encourage them to consider upgrading it at this point. They basically said they want to see some more ongoing improvement in the district's financial conditions, and we've got the rating report attached, so I'll kind of hit that a little bit at the end of this report. You did have 9 bids, which is a great number of bids. We like to see at least 3 on a competitive sale, so 9 means there's a lot of interest, and typically there is more interest with larger issues. The low bidder was an underwriter called Baird out of Red Bank, New Jersey, and their low bid was 3.46%. And if you look down below in the note, we point out that the true interest cost of 3.46 is lower than the 3.91 we had estimated in the pre-sale report when we were here presenting our potential options, and that ultimately will result in a little over $3 million less in principal and interest payments over the term of the bond. Interest rates have actually come down a little bit in the last week, so it was a great time to be out in the market selling bonds right now. So closing date for all the bonds will be September 13th. That's when the finances will come into the district. Board action then is to adopt the resolution awarding the sale of the bonds. The bids are on page 3, 4, and 5, and you can see that Baird partnered with several other banks to purchase the bonds to come up with the $45 million, and you see some familiar names on there like Edward Jones, for example. They partnered with a number of other banks to purchase the bonds. You also had bids from Citigroup in New York, Piper Jaffray in Minneapolis, Bank of America Merrill Lynch in New York, Wells Fargo out of their Charlotte office, Jefferies from New York, JP Morgan Securities in New York, Mesirow Financial in Chicago, and UBS Financial Services in New York. You see a lot of big names from the East Coast financial firms, and it's an attractive credit. The credit quality is good and a large dollar amount, and so it made it very attractive for the bidders, and that's what ultimately resulted in getting the good interest rate. Page 7 is sources and uses. Not much change there. We talked, remember, a little bit about the premium and the idea that someone pay you more for your bonds than than you were offering them for. We ended up right about where we were, a real small, actually a net discount. The premium was a little smaller than the discount the underwriter took. So really kind of a non-story. And that's kind of where we're seeing the market going, a little bit smaller premiums on some issues lately. Page 8 is the debt service schedule, and you can see there's no principal paid early on. And the reason for that is that we're wrapping this because of the tax impact. Remember that colorful chart, and that's repeated on the next page. We're wrapping the bonds around your existing debt to keep the tax impact negligible. for the next couple of years, and then the tax rate starts declining. And in fact, you can see that page 9. If you have, I need longer arms or my reading glasses to read the numbers on there, but that's the detailed amortization schedule for both the A and B, or for all three A, B, and C bonds that we're talking about tonight. And you see up at the top, there's also a 2019 A COP. That will be issued in January as part of what MDE asked us to structure the financing to pay for the building additions at Richardson and Castle. So those 4 issues are incorporated either as results for the first 3 or as estimates for the 2019 A. One thing that's not included is the savings for the 2018 D and E refunding bonds. So once we get everything from tonight locked in, we'll start over with this plan and rebuild it. And when you get your initial levy certification next month, we'll take a look at that, take a look at your annual pay-as-you-go facilities maintenance levy, and then structure the refundings basically to kind of make the future debt service consistent with how we've laid it out here. So we're kind of not locking in the next step because we want to see what happens when the big picture levy comes out next month. So so that's not incorporated in here, but it will be when we take that next step.
So when we walk that step and we have the chart and we look at it, you know, we'll keep the tax flat for all the 4 parts of our levy. And so we'll look at what we have to do to the pay-as-you-go long-term facilities maintenance levy.
Right.
So hopefully it'll go up a little bit.
Yeah. So you have a little bit of room because you actually got good interest rates today. So there's a little bit of room for some additional pay-as-you-go levy without increasing the tax rate. So, in terms of the refunding, I think Randy has some information in your packet, but basically we're expecting savings. We may restructure that so that there's not as much savings in the first year, so we can just kind of hit that target on where we're at with the levy now, but then we'll build in more savings in the future. So in effect, you'll be paying the bonds off a little bit faster and building a little bit more room if you have future debt, to make that the tax impact lower for that future debt. So, so then the next pages are the rating report. And as I pointed out, if you look at page 11, they talk about the rating rationale, about why they gave you the rating that they did. And I'll note, when we get the 2000 A and B are general obligation bonds that you're familiar with. 2018 C is a COP lease purchase. So you've done those before, just to remind you that that's basically an annual lease, so it's not a general obligation. So when we look at the rating, there will always be a 1-notch difference between the GO and the lease rating. So the rating for, you can see at the top for the GO debt is A1, and the A2 rating is assigned to the COPs, and that's 1 notch down. If you think of it on a plus-minus scale, an A1 is an A+, and an A2 is an A. So still a good rating, but it's always notched one level because it's an annual appropriation and not GO. So factors that could lead to an upgrade, the 2 things that are in your control and not related to the 3 things that are not related to the enhanced rating: continued trend of financial growth, enrollment growth that strengthens the district's financial position, and reduction in debt or pension liabilities. And then the downside risks are operational imbalances, in other words, deficit spending, enrollment declines, and material increases in debt that put a strain on district operations. We did talk about the fact that there are ongoing facilities needs in the school district. We talked about that with Moody's. We don't believe that those debt service payments will strain the district's operating budget, nor will they, given how the tax structure will work, necessarily result in large tax increases. And so we think those are important factors to help mitigate some of the fact that there will be added debt down the road if you continue to progress through your capital facilities plan. So we'll keep that in mind, and we'll keep getting, we'll have rating calls when we do the refundings, and then we'll have a rating if we do for the 2019 A issue, and we'll keep pressuring them to consider the improvements that the district is making and hopefully get an upgrade. So that's the report on the A bond.
Maybe we should do the resolution. I don't know, Madam Chair, if you want to do the resolution for the long-term facilities maintenance bonds, and then we can kind of progress through the other issues.
I'm not sure who to ask the question about, but I just need to clarify. When you said that we're going to have a savings, an anticipated savings, where does that go? I mean, since it's a bond and we're borrowing, so.
Yeah, so when we do these refundings, and we did one last summer, if you remember.
So we'll refund the bond?
Yes.
Oh, okay,
That's
never
what
mind.
it is.
Now I
So
get it.
savings.
I get it.
Yep.
Okay.
So
That's-
Teresa-
I just didn't connect the two.
Gotcha.
We are refunding our OPEB bonds.
Yep.
And what's happening is we're planning on getting a better mortgage rate, so to speak.
And
So,
all without a tax impact.
yeah.
Tax increase.
A tax increase, yes. Yes. Thank you. Thank you, Michelle.
I actually, is my microphone on?
No.
Is it on now? Is it on now?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah. Okay, I don't entirely understand all this stuff, but the A2 rating, we wish it was higher, but we got a good interest rate. So I would think that the reason that we're particularly interested in getting a better rating is for our interest rate.
To be even better.
Well,
To be even better than it is, even though it was.
yeah. So
pretty good.
the underlying rate, you are helped because you get the state's AA2 rating.
Yep.
So, but the interest rate that you get on the bids is a function of also of your underlying rating. So if you had an A1, which is kind of the A plus, that's what you have now. If you had prior to this, you had a AA3 rating, which is like a AA minus, and you actually had a AA2, which is a straight AA rating. The district went through a couple of ratings downgrades. If you improve those ratings, that tends to reduce the interest rates. So you may have even gotten better rates. Now you can't compare. I mean, sometimes you can't even compare day to day, because today might have been a good day. People might have been looking for certain kinds of issues, and typically, without considering the credit enhanced rating, a rating notch, we call it when you go from the 1, 2 to 3, is about 0.05% on an interest rate scale. So on a large amount, it obviously has a much bigger impact than on a smaller amount.
Okay, and the factors that could lead to an upgrade are continued trend of strong financial growth, which I feel like we're on the right path, and then enrollment growth, which we're likely to see because of housing developments.
We had a
and things
positive
like that.
increase this year, so that was nice.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Thank you.
Yep.
Caleb, do you have some?
I guess for Randy, would you say that the district over the past several years has had overall factors that have increased our bond ratings?
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, it's easier for Moody's to downgrade us than it is for them to upgrade us. And so, I inherited, because we were deficit spending for 3 years, we inherited that situation. And so it was funny, I had only been here a month and Moody's was on the phone saying, you deficit spent, we're going to downgrade you. And I'm like, what? I remember talking to Greg and I'm like, what, what's going on here? And then the following year they downgraded us again because, we were deficit spending. But I think right now we pushed really hard on the last ratings call to go to a AA3 just because of our finance situation over the last 2 to 3 years has been very solid, and we've increased fund balance. And I think they can see through the audits and everything that the financial management of the district has gotten much stronger. So I hope in the future we'll be able to get a ratings uptick.
Thank you.
Okay, and so thank you for your work on that, Randy. But the resolution. So this is a long one. Resolution awarding long-term facility maintenance bonds. Resolution awarding the sale, determining the form and detail, authorizing the execution, delivery, and registration, and providing for the payment of general obligation facilities maintenance bonds, Series 2018A. Is my microphone working?
That's the right one, yeah.
Be resolved by the School Board of Independent School District 622. Authorization at a meeting held April 24th, 2018. Did it not work? This board determined to sell and issue general obligation bonds of Independent School District number 622 in the total aggregate principal amount of not to exceed $45 million. Said bonds shall be issued to fund the acquisition and betterment of projects included in the district's 10-year facility plan approved by the Commissioner of Education pursuant to Minnesota Statute Section 123B.595 Subdivision 5 and related financing costs. Sale. The board, having been advised by Ehlers & Associates, Inc., its independent municipal advisor, has determined that this issue shall be privately sold after receipt of written proposals as authorized pursuant to Minnesota Statute Section 475.60, Subdivision 2, as amended. The board has publicly received and considered all proposals presented in conformity with the terms of proposal contained in the official statement, which are hereby ratified and confirmed in all respects and are incorporated herein by reference as though fully specified in this paragraph. The most favorable of such proposals is ascertained to be that of Baird Red Bank, New Jersey, 85. The purchaser, to purchase the bonds at a price of $44,782,884 plus interest accrued to settlement, and upon the further terms and conditions set forth in the terms of proposal contained in the official statement in this resolution. Said proposal is hereby accepted and the sale of the bonds is hereby awarded to said purchaser. Again, this is an excerpt of the resolution, and the full resolution is available on the website and in the business office. And with that, we need a motion and a second.
So moved.
Okay,
Clarification, please.
Yep.
You read a dollar amount that's different than what's been published. So, I want to make sure we get the right.
Published in this.
What you just read does not match what's on our form. I just want to make sure we do the right number. You said 44,700 something. Ours?
Yeah, that's the purchase price, which is slightly different than the par amount of the bonds.
So this is the accurate price. Thank you.
Yep, if you look on on the bid itself on page 3 in the lower left-hand corner, you see a adjusted price $44,782,884.85.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you for that clarification.
Sure.
Okay, great. All right, so moved by Anderson, second by Navy. All in favor say aye. Aye. And opposed? Okay, so that motion is approved. Okay, next is resolution awarding capital facility and abatement bonds. Is that
Correct. And this one is the, as I mentioned, the slightly different because we took the bids last week. So I'll just hit the highlights. On page 1, we did get 4 bids for this bond issue, and the low bid was 2.766%, and that's lower than the 3.33% in the pre-sale report. We didn't do the principal and interest comparison because the pre-sale report, we actually had a smaller bond size for the capital facility bonds. You can use either general fund, capital facility fund balance, or bonds. And because the interest rate was so good, we decided on the day of sale to increase the size of the bonds in order to basically capture some extra money without having to use your fund balance. So the total principal and interest is slightly higher than we had in the pre-sale, but the interest rate is much lower given the extra $400,000 or so that we were able to capture for these projects. And really, there isn't anything else. I'd just point out the bids again. Piper Jaffray was the low bidder. Baird out of Red Bank, again, was the second bidder on this one. UBS from New York and JP Morgan from New York. We did have more bidders registered for this, but we think it was the fact that well, in fact, we talked to a couple of them and they said it was the 3-year call. Sometimes you pay a premium in the interest rate because bondholders want you to not refinance that bond for a long time. So that's what we were a little concerned about. It turned out 2.76% is a great rate anyway, so.
Yeah, we're happy about this one because this one's funded through our capital restricted fund balance. And so this gives us, we're going to use our capital restricted fund balance to pay the principal and interest for 3 years. And then we're hoping that we pass a building bond eventually. And then we'll use the building bond proceeds to pay off this bond. And so that's why I said to Greg, you know, I think initially it was like, I'd like this to be callable within 3 years so we can do that, you know, so we don't have to use our capital facilities, capital dollars on this project. So.
Right. And there is another portion for parking lots. Remember, there's about $1 million in here for abatement bonds, and they have the same call provision, but because you're allowed to levy for those payments, we may get to that point and decide, you know what, that's a good interest rate. We're going to just let those continue and continue to levy for those payments, but pay off the capital facility bond portion. So we have a lot of options. So that's it for that one, and you have a separate resolution for that as well.
Okay. Any such, okay. I will read the resolution again. I'm going to read an excerpt, and then it's available. Hit it again. I just turned it off, yeah. So the resolution is long. I'll read a part of it, and then it's available in the business office or on the website. So resolution awarding capital facility bonds. Resolution ratifying the award of the sale, determining the form and details, authorizing the execution, delivery, and registration, and providing for the payment of general obligation capital facilities and tax abatement bonds, Series 2018B. Be it resolved by the School Board of Independent School District Number 622, State of Minnesota as follows. Authorization and sale. Authorization. At a meeting held July 24th, 2018, this board, by resolution, stated its intent to issue and tentatively authorized the issuance of general obligation bonds of Independent School District Number 622 in the total aggregate principal amount of not to exceed $6,130,000 pursuant to Minnesota statute, section 123B.62, 1469.1812 to 469.1815, and chapter 475 as amended. Said bonds were to be issued to fund the costs of specified capital projects and to finance the construction of improvements to existing parking lots at Castle and Richardson Elementary Schools and related work, and to fund related financing costs. The issuance of the capital facilities portion of the bonds has received the approval of the Commissioner of Education pursuant to Minnesota Statute Section 123B.62. And then sale. The board, having been advised by Eller & Associates, Inc., its independent municipal advisor, has determined that this issue shall be privately sold after receipt of written proposals as authorized pursuant to Minnesota Statute Section 475.60, Subdivision 2 as amended. On August 16, 2018, the superintendent or director of business services and a board officer received and considered all proposals presented in conformity with the terms of proposal contained in the official statement, which are hereby ratified and confirmed in all respects and are incorporated herein by reference as though fully specified in this paragraph. The proposal of Piper Jaffray, Minneapolis, Minnesota, to purchase the bonds at a price of $6,115,044.69 plus interest accrued to the settlement, and upon the further terms and conditions set forth in the terms of proposal contained in the official statement, was determined to be the most favorable proposal maker and was accepted by the superintendent or director of business services and a board officer pursuant to the July 24th, 2018 resolution of the board. And the award of the sale of the bonds to the purchaser is hereby ratified by the board. Okay, with that, we need a motion for approval. Moved by OJ, second by Anderson, and is there any additional discussion? Okay, with that, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And opposed? Okay. Thank you. And are you up for the next one as well?
Yes, I am. I hope you're not getting tired of me yet.
So the next one
No, we'll
is
make this one even faster. So this is the certificates of participation to fund the lease purchase to do the building additions at Castle and Richardson. Again, we mentioned this A2 rating on the inside of page 1. We had 5 bids on this issue, and a low bidder on this one was also Piper Jaffray out of Minneapolis with a bid of 3.23%. You see in the note that that's slightly lower than the 3.65 estimated in the pre-sale report. So total costs over the life of the certificates will be at $405,000 less than we estimated in the pre-sale report. The bids are on page 3 through 6. Again, Wells Fargo from Charlotte, UBS from New York, Hutchinson Shockey out of Chicago, and Baird from Red Bank, New Jersey were the bidders on the certificates. Page 6 is the sources and uses, and page 7 is the debt service schedule that shows roughly an $820,000 a year levy that you'll do through the lease levy program to make the payments on the COPs.
Randy, I just want to thank you for going with Ellers. But I want to say that I feel like we've got way more options than we've ever had, and when you have options and you can save, I don't know how to thank you for your diligence. And I mean, just even thinking as you've stated about, you know, the call and stuff, we have a little expertise. Nothing to the magnitude like this, and I just think that your foresight and leadership in this is really telling. I just want to stress that I'm really appreciative and feel so confident that you've been at the helm.
It's been a good partnership.
Absolutely.
all right.
You ready?
Awesome. Okay. So one more. I mean, we have a few more. Sale of certificates of participation. Again, this is an excerpt. The full version is available from the business office or on our district website. Resolution relating to a lease purchase financing and certificates of participation, Series 2018C, authorizing the issuance, determining the form and details, ratifying the award of the sale, and authorizing the execution, delivery, and registration. Be resolved by the School Board of Independent School District Number 622, North St. Paul, Maplewood, Oakdale, State of Minnesota, as follows. Authorization. This board finds it necessary and expedient for the school district to enter into a ground lease agreement, a lease purchase agreement, and a trust agreement, and to sell and issue its certificates of participation, Series 2018C, evidencing the proportionate interest of the registered owners thereof in lease payments to be made by Independent School District Number 622, to finance the improvements acquired, constructed, and installed as described on Exhibit A to the lease purchase agreement, including but not limited to betterment of the site and the constructed and equipping of additions to the Castle and Richardson Elementary School sites and facilities, and the fixtures to be installed thereon or therein, for the use of the school district as educational facilities. Sale. The board, having been advised by Eller and Associates, Inc., its independent municipal advisors, has determined that this issue shall be privately sold after receipt of written proposals as authorized pursuant to Minnesota Statute Section 475.60, Subdivision 2 as amended. The board has publicly received and considered all proposals presented in conformity with the terms of proposal contained in the official statement, which are hereby ratified and confirmed in all respects and are incorporated therein by reference as though fully specified in this paragraph. The most favorable of such proposals is ascertained to be that of Piper Jaffray, Minneapolis, Minnesota, to purchase the certificates at a price of $494,557, plus interest accrued to settlement, and upon the further terms and conditions set forth in the terms of proposal contained in the official statement and this resolution. Said proposal is hereby accepted, and the sale of the certificates is hereby awarded to said original purchaser. And with that, we need a motion and a second.
So moved.
Okay, moved by OJ, second by Navy. Is there any discussion? Okay. Then all in favor say aye.
Aye.
And opposed? Okay, and so we have approval for the sale of certificates of participation. Okay, next we have resolution authorizing the sale of refunding bonds.
Yeah, we'll just do a quick summary. Those two resolutions will refund the 2009 A and B bonds, where we will prepare a pre-sale report like we did for these bonds. As I mentioned, in September, we're expecting total savings in the 1.5 to 2 million, you know, depending on where rates go. I think right now we're right at about 2 million. So we expect to see savings by basically refinancing those two mortgages. And again, we'll structure and send you updated estimates that show you what you're paying now in terms of interest and what we expect given where the market is at right now in September.
Great.
And this will also help us with phase 2 and, you know, future fund, you know, bondings. So it'll help us
So I'll
with that.
leave you alone for September. We intend to sell those bonds on October 23rd, the day of that board meeting. So we'll be out with the bid results that night for these two bond issues.
Great. Okay. So this one is resolution authorizing the sale of refunding bonds for 2009A bond issue. Resolution providing for the sales of general obligation taxable OPEB refunding bonds series 2018D and covenanting, I don't know that word, and obligating the district to be bound by and to use the provisions of Minnesota statute section 126C.55 to guarantee the payment of the principal and interest on these bonds. Be resolved by the School Board of Independent School District 622, Minnesota as follows. Bond authorization. The school board has determined that it is necessary and expedient to issue 14,105,000 general obligation taxable OPEB refunding bonds series 2018D. Sale. The district has retained Ehlers & Associates, Inc. in Roseville, Minnesota as its independent municipal advisor for the bonds. Ehlers is authorized to solicit proposals in accordance with Minnesota statute section 475.60 subdivision 29. If the issuance of the bonds is approved, the school board shall meet at the time and place specified in the official statement to receive and consider proposals for the purchase of the bonds. Okay, and again, this is an excerpt, and the full resolution can be found online or in the business office. And with that, we need a motion and a second for approval.
So moved.
Okay, moved by Anderson.
Second.
Second by Colborn. Any additional conversation around this one? Any conversation? Okay, then all in favor say aye.
Aye.
And opposed? Okay, so that motion carries as well. And then should I go straight to the next resolution? Because you've already talked. So the resolution authorizing the sale of refunding bonds for 2009B bond issue. Resolution providing for the sale of general obligation and alternative facilities refunding bonds series 2018E and convening and obligating the district to be bound by and to use the provisions of Minnesota statute section 126C.55 to guarantee the payment of the principal and interest of these bonds. Be it resolved by the School Board of Independent School District number 622, Minnesota as follows. Bond authorization. The school board has determined that it's necessary and expedient to issue $3,935,000 general obligation alternative facility refunding bonds, Series 2018E, sale. The district has retained Ehlers and Associates, Inc. in Roseville, Minnesota as its independent municipal advisor for the bonds. Ehlers is authorized to solicit proposals in accordance with Minnesota statutes section 475.60, subdivision 2-9. If the issuance of the bonds is approved, the school board shall meet at the time and place specified in the official statement to receive and consider proposals for the purchase of the bond. Can I get a motion and a second for this resolution?
So moved.
Moved by Ogier. Second. Second by Navy. Any discussion on this one? Okay. Then all in favor of this resolution, say aye.
Aye.
And opposed? Okay, and that resolution also passes.
Thank you so much. Sorry to take so much of your time off.
Oh, no.
Hey, on the bright side, the B bond was actually 2 bond issues on it, you know, the tax abatement capital
There you go.
facilities. So we saved a little bit of time there, so.
We're happy to have you.
Yeah, thanks for all your work on this.
Yeah.
We appreciate it.
Great to be here, and it's been really fun working through this plan and getting you to a place where you can really start addressing a lot of the needs in the school district. And we look forward to continuing to move forward with you. So thank you so
Great.
much, and we'll see you in a couple of months.
Great,
Okay.
thank you.
All right, thank you. Good night.
Okay. And the next item on the agenda is, Randy, lease purchase agreement.
Okay, so this is a lease purchase agreement for 9 new school buses, 5 full-size 77-passenger and 4 smaller buses, 35-passenger, plus 2 wheelchair accommodations. The 4 special buses will have a lift in them. This is part of our plan. I've worked with BJ, our transportation supervisor. We had 17 vehicles that were either purchased in 2004 or 2005, and so we purchased 6 used ones. As you remember, you did that purchase here a while ago, which is about $388,000, and this will give us the opportunity to get 15 new pieces of equipment, or new to us or brand new, to replace some of those old vehicles. So right now in front of you is a 5-year lease to purchase agreement with U.S. Bancorp. The debt service every year is about $185,000, which is budgeted for, and so I look to you guys to approve that tonight. Are there any questions?
Sorry, Randy, did you say that they're brand new or they're new to us?
These are brand new buses. These are 2020 buses. The ones we purchased were 2 years old. Well, they're 2019 and 2020. So the 2019s are the 5 full-size, which we already have, and we're special ordering the 4, which will come later in the year. They're the special education, our special ed student buses with the lifts. So, but prior to this, we purchased 6 2017 buses that were returned through a leasing agreement with another school district, and so we were able to get buses that had less than 40,000 miles on them at about a 35% discount off a new. So we feel pretty good about that combination.
And what's the average life span of a bus? Like how many miles typically?
Well, you know, we put on quite a few miles. It's anywhere between 15 and 20,000 miles a year on each of our buses, but we'd like to rotate them every 10 years. And so 12 years probably is, you know, on the fringe, and some of these buses were 13 and 14 years old that, you know, we actually got just repurposed.
Okay.
Okay. So the resolution, is it on again? No. Is it on now? Yeah? Okay. Resolution authorization for lease purchase agreement. Resolution approving and authorizing the execution of a tax-exempt lease purchase agreement and supplements thereto and related documents and certificates Be resolved by the School Board of Independent School District Number 622, North St. Paul, Maplewood, Oakdale, State of Minnesota as follows. The tax-exempt lease purchase agreement dated September 15, 2018, the agreement and the schedules, exhibits, amendments, or addendum thereto are hereby approved substantially in the form presented to this board and on file in the office of the clerk. That is an excerpt again, and the full resolution is available online or in the business office. We need a motion and a second.
So moved.
Okay, moved by Coburn, second by Auger. Any further discussion on this one? Okay, then all in favor say aye. Aye. And opposed? Okay, and that motion carries. Okay, next we have 2018-2019 stadium rental rate changes. Randy.
This is a proposal to reduce our stadium rates for non-profit groups, specifically designed at our activity groups that lease our fields. It was brought to our attention by the two athletic directors. They'd like to see, more groups use our facilities, and so they worked with Linda Napoli. We met. We looked at surrounding school districts' rates and found for our nonprofit or our activities groups, our booster clubs, etc., we were considerably more than surrounding school districts. So before you is a proposed rate decrease for those classifications proposed by Linda and the athletic directors, and I would endorse it as well. So,
Teresa?
Randy, a couple questions here. You said that our booster groups, so are we talking about our own students who are on non-school associated activities that want to rent, or are we talking about, because I don't think you really meant to say booster, did you? No. These are non-school kids clubs. They're not, they might be students in our community or people in our community, but they're not our students that are having to pay to use the turf. Is that correct? Or are we?
Outside agency.
Yeah, outside agencies. So the classification of Class B, and I'll just read it here, is nonprofit tax-exempt community groups, organizations with a majority of ISD 622 residents, district area athletic associations, and groups sponsored by the cities of Maplewood, North St. Paul, and Oakdale.
Got it. Yeah. And that makes sense to me. My only question to you is, I'm sure you had a budget, and how does this throw your budget off? And if we go into the red, to what budget does it come out? Is it the building budget then, or would it be a capital budget?
No, it would be a general fund budget. It's under miscellaneous revenues, and so we budget for a lot of different types of revenues, which this is one of them. And so, again, it's not a significant reduction, and I'm conservative in my budgeting approach, so I would hope it would, we would meet our goal anyway, so.
Well, and my last comment is just about everything. All this finance stuff that we've. My hope is that we can somehow at the beginning of the school year really articulate this to staff and to parents. Maybe, I don't know, maybe it's a talking point, maybe it's a bookmark at a school. I just think some of this stuff is so phenomenal for our communities that the more we can get ahead of it in a positive way, we can gain a momentum for future activities. So just something to think about.
Are you mentioning specifically the reduction in rental fees?
Well, we did so much finance
tonight.
Oh,
all of the things we've accomplished this evening.
And I think it really shows the spectrum to which we analyze these budgets and we look out for our communities. And this is a tiny little thing, but it's significant to the little person that wants to rent something. So that's what I was referring to.
Got it.
Okay. So I'm going to The resolution for approval of changes to 2018-2019 Polar Tartan Stadium rental rates. Be it resolved that the School Board of Independent School District number 622 approve and adopt the changes to the 2018-2019 Polar and Tartan Stadium rental rates as presented. I need a motion and a second.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Colborn, second by Anderson. Any further discussion on this one? Okay. Then all in favor say aye.
Aye.
And opposed? Okay, so that carries as well. And that was our last action item. So next we have to set agenda and location for the September 25th, 2018 reflection session. Let's see, we have a date of September 25th. The start time of 5 p.m., but we need to take action on the agenda and location. Okay, so that the September 25th, 2018 reflection session, which begins at 5 p.m., takes place in room 202 at the District Education Center with the following agenda items. 1, icebreaker. 2, reports, committees, liaisons, trainings, conferences, and 3, board compensation comparison. So I need a motion and a second on that one.
So moved.
Okay, moved by Navy, second by Auger. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
And opposed? Okay. So we have agenda and location for our reflection study session. Next we have board communications. Teresa, do you want to start us off?
Hot off the press is the new Learning for All. It came in the mail today, and I know Oakdale is horrifically late getting the mail out, but if you haven't taken a community ed class, I thoroughly encourage you to look this over. It's a great collaboration of multiple different communities, and some of the classes are really cool. So great items. And I just wanted to say, the other thing is, we've hired a lot of staff. I wanted to welcome them. I know that, Christine, you do a great welcome back barbecue, but it's a time of year where school's around the corner, and so many of people outstate have already started school, and it's just hard to believe that it's going to be fall before you know it. So savor the last few days of summer. That's it.
I just want to, as we approach welcome back, even though our event is on the 28th, I know that many staff members have been hard at work doing training and such all summer long, so just want to let them know how much we appreciate that. But super looking forward to our August 28th barbecue specifically, and hopefully all staff members can make it there and grab a hot dog and some chips and maybe a cookie. So that's 11 o'clock on that 28th after Christine's presentation.
Great, thank you.
Well, I'd like to send a thank you to Josh Anderson, our communications director, and Kathleen Hess isn't here right now, but she also does communications for our district. She also is in charge of the, okay.
She's filming.
Oh, okay. Hi, Kathleen. She does the new alumni publication, but I got to meet with them just to talk about the new plans for alumni outreach, and that's something that I've always been passionate about at Century College, and I'm just really excited for the different contacts that we're going to gain from that. There's surveys online where alumni can go and fill out information about themselves and their careers and give their updated contact information. But I think that this can bring us just more friends and a lot more support for our students and our staff. So I'm excited about that. So thank you.
Great. Thanks, Caleb. And then I also just want to kind of echo what Amy said and welcome everybody back to school, the staff, the students, the families. I know that a lot of us will be going to open houses this week, and this year I will have a child in elementary, middle, and high school, so I'll get to go to 3 open houses, which is exciting for me. The last thing we have on the agenda is just the future board meeting dates. We have August 28th, 2018 board retreat from 1 to 4 in room 202. We have the September 25th, 2018 reflection study session, 5 p.m. in room 202. And then our September 25th, 2018 business meeting at 6 p.m. in the boardroom. And with that, I would like to adjourn the meeting. So can I get a motion in a second? Moved by Coburn, second by Navy. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
And opposed? Well,
Meeting's adjourned.
the meeting's adjourned. You don't want to.